Knowing yourself has nothing to do with the ideas about yourself. Eckhart Tolle. Hi, my name is Abhi, and in this discussion, we'll get to know deeper the secrets of our mind. See, knowing ourselves is not something we are taught in schools. Our whole education system and language falls short when it comes to knowing who we truly are. The questions such as who am I are not pondered or encouraged in our education system. I'm sure you'll agree with me that to be yourself, the first step is to know yourself. How can I be myself if I don't know who I am? The discussion is not just limited to what we know, but how we see the world, our perspectives. As humans, we can only perceive something from our mind. Our mind uses the language to shape our reality. Before we look at something, it's important to examine the lens we look through. In other words, before we perceive anything from the mind, it's really important to understand what this mind is. See, in English language, we have only one word to describe mind. Now, my question is, how do you understand the complexity of a human brain if there's only one word to describe and understand it? So to address this challenge, let's go back 4,000 years ago to ancient Vedic scriptures written in Sanskrit. The scriptures were called Vedas, and they categorized mind into 84 different functional roles. The mind was further summarized and simplified into 4 major categories. First, mana, the conscious mind; Budhi, wisdom or intellect; Chitta, memory; Ahamkara, ego. Now these 4 categories are collectively known as mind. It's important to understand that these 4 categories of mind are functional in nature and not physical. That means the mind is called these 4 different names depending on the function it performs. In the first video, we'll cover the most dominant part of the mind called Ahamkara, ego, I, my identity. Ego is the most important part of the mind and is the basis for all our memories and experiences of lifetimes. Ego attaches self-identity with all the experience and memories. While the mind is performing all the functions, the ego adds the sense of I. Ego steps in and claims the doing and the doer. It's happening to me. I am doing this. Let's understand this with an example. Imagine building a room with 4 walls and roof in the middle of empty land. Now, before the room existed, there was no separation between the air outside the room and the air inside the room. But as soon as the boundaries and walls are created, it separates the air inside the room from the air outside. We can additionally change the attributes of the air inside. We can change the temperature, its fragrance, essentially make it the way I like it. Now this air becomes part of me, my room, and my air. Now let's say in the scenario your friend comes to visit you inside the room. As they inhale the air inside the room, they compliment on its quality and fragrance. The thought of that compliment adds to your identification with the air, and you receive the compliment personally. And this adds to the ever-expanding idea of I. See, the Ahamkara, ego part of mind determines who we are and how we see ourselves in the world around us. This part of mind is also a label creator. We live in a society of labels. Everyone will try to label you, including yourself. Initially, these labels are imposed on us, and later we become the instruments to impose these labels on others. Eventually, these labels become part of our subconscious mind and create our ever expanding identity. I mean, really think about it. How much of your energy and time you're spending during your day to uphold and defend these labels. I am this person and I'm not this person. I need to be better than everyone else around me. Our grading systems in the school are constantly labeling us. If we are a grade A student or a B or a F or a failure, the list goes on and on. We begin to believe these labels and take them as who we are. Fast forward to this present day, these labels become the very boundaries your faculties of mind can function within. Even if you are a highly intelligent person, but your identity is self-destructive, you'll use all your intelligence to create destruction in the world. To understand this better, let's consider an example of a doctor and a serial killer. Let's say they both are holding a knife in their hand. However, they're going to use the knife very differently depending on who they identify themselves with. The doctor is using all the faculties of his mind, including thoughts, wisdom, effectively to save the patient via surgery. And on the other hand, serial killer is using all the faculties of his mind to effectively kill a person without leaving a trace. What's the difference? The identities. The doctor is identified with the role of saving the patient, and a serial killer is identified with the role to kill. As I mentioned earlier, this is going to be a thought-provoking and an interactive session. See, the next story is going to explain you deeper the way identities work. This story is very unique and it's told by the author who himself is playing an actor in his own story. And this author has described himself as a poet in his own story. One day there was a celebration going on in honor of the new king, who was sitting and watching all these performances in his honor with his queen and the other important members of his staff. To entertain himself, the king asked his staff to bring a poet. The poet bows to the king and recites his poetry he wrote recently. The king, the queen, or the staff did not particularly like the poetry, and the poet feels a little awkward as he was told to leave. Now the very important question is asked: if the poet is the author of the story, then why did he choose not to be the king? Why did he choose to be the poet, and that too a bad one? The way you answer this question reveals a lot about who you are. So answer it truthfully and leave it in the comment section below. And next video will review each and every answer. We'll go deeper into the layers of the mind and how we create this world through the lens of our perception. I am so grateful that you're watching this video right now, and I sincerely hope that we get to continue this conversation further. Please subscribe and hit the bell button so I can notify you when the next video releases. Also, please like and share so we can continue bring this Vedic wisdom to you. Namaste and peace. Let's create the life by design.